because I can't see if you can see my screen. All right. Okay. So I want to talk about the difference between a monopoly and socialism. All right. AOC, Bernie Sanders, and these socialists, Mandami and the rest of them, are not going to give you the truth. They're going to twist it. They're going to lie. They're seeking power. They are Marxists. By any means necessary, they want control. They want power. They are millionaires. Like J.D. Pritzker, he's reportedly a billionaire. So they're not going to tell you the truth, but they want to gain power. They want to gain power over those who love freedom, the Republicans, conservatives, Christians. Everything that conservatives do, no, is not perfect, not good, not great. I get that. However, the trying to get make sure my background is correct on here. However, it is better than the alternative which you have right now with the Democrats. The lesser of two evils. All right. Concerning a power company, most power companies are a monopoly. They are owned collectively, but meaning well, they govern collectively, they own privately. All right. Meaning the state doesn't own them, but they're governed by the state. They're regulated. So their monopolies are generally not loud, but you can't have five power companies jacking up your rates, running muck over this area or that area. You got to have one, and it got to be regulated, and they got to make a profit. All that. All right. So let's get into it. Understanding the monopoly. A monopoly is a market condition in which one company dominates the supply of a good or services. In the United States, electrical power companies, water utilities, and some gas providers operate as natural monopolies. That is not socialism. They are capitalists. These industries require huge infrastructure investment. So again, you can't have five companies vying for this one, set of people. Say Augusta, Georgia. You can't have five companies all in there. You need to have one, and need to be governed and regulated. These industries require huge infrastructure investment, power lines, substations, and pipelines that would be ineffective and chaotic to duplicate. All right? You have five different power lines that can switch back and forth on your house. No, it won't work. For this reason, government regulated closely to protect customers from abuse. So you got to get the understanding. You got to go to the source. And it's not all the time you can chat. You got to read books. Go to different videos, research what I say, research what others say. So, but you got to get to the understanding when the politician is talking, check them. Check them. You got to take time. You watching a football game, whatever, a ref call a bad play, you know all the rules, but you don't know how to govern yourself or to govern your city. You're superficial. You got to get into the nuts and bolts. All right, a monopoly exists within capitalism. not socialism. The company is privately owned. Its stakeholders, they seek a profit. And it operates under state oversight, not under state ownership. Oversight is not ownership. Oversights with legal authority can arrest people, can govern the price, can show that they were doing right wrong for the people. When people complain, they can go after the monopoly. All right, socialism means the government ownership or control of the means of production. A power company produces power. It's private. But if it was a socialist state, the government will own that power company. You see the difference? The money goes to the private owner, not to the state. In a socialist system, the state owns factories, farms, and utilities. And people starved and people died. But this is what Mandami and the different socialists want you to believe. They want you to believe they can do it better when they have not run anything. Mandami is living off his parents' money. He is a TikTok politician. But New York is going to hand over the reins of power to an amateur, to a phony. But that's you, New York. A monopoly, on the other hand, is private ownership under public regulation. The state does not own the power company. It merely ensures that prices and services are fair and that the company cannot exploit its exclusive power. In other words, okay, I got you. I'm gonna raise the prices, beyond what is necessary. I'm going for strict profit. So they keep them down. They regulate them. Can it be corruption? Absolutely. But when the state takes over, imagine the corruption, the kickbacks, and the different things. Soviet Union, Russia. Look at the Russia-Ukraine war. So much corruption, the military. General gets the money to buy tanks. Here you go, put a new addition on his house, buys a yacht. Government ownership does not mean it's going to be purely run for the people. They're not accountable. Mandami, once he get in office, he don't do what he want to do, lie to you to get in there, and then do what he want to do. All right. The state does not own the power company. It merely ensures that prices and services are fair and that the company cannot exploit its exclusive position. Right? Things to consider. The power company still operates for profit, pays taxes, and must justify rate increases to a public utility commissions. Can they be bought and sold? Sure. But it's not it's not a perfect world, but it's not a perfect system, but it's not socialism. The government may set maximum charges, review profits, and demand service reliability, but it does not direct production or redistribute wealth, right? So communists, socialists come in. They take power. They take from the rich, the producers, the performers, the high performers. They take from them and then they give it out, all right? Known fact, if you study China, you got farmers in Russia and Ukraine, and when the communists came in, they took farms from the people who could produce, gave it to less than ideal people with no prior knowledge of farming. Okay, it's a lot going into it. You take Jack Smith from New York and put him out in Iowa with no training, he's going to starve to death. He's going to hurt himself. He's going to get run over by his own tractor. So you have to be trained, grow up, be mentored to do just about anything in life. But these amateurs think, I read a book from Marxists and I got it. All right. The power company still operates for a profit, pays taxes. All right, got that. All right, let's go to the next one. Find my little switch. Where's my little switch? There we go. All right. Why states regulate monopolies? Again, they got to take care of the people to a certain extent. They got to take care of people. So why the state regulates monopolies? Regulation exists because monopolies can exploit their position. Without competition, they could raise prices unchecked, provide poor service, or block innovation. That's the government. The government says, case in point, we don't want you to have a gun. But we are not obligated, Supreme Court cases show, they're not obligated to come save your life. All right? Now, individual officer can be prosecuted for that, but the sheriff office itself, the police department, can withdraw from an area for what reason, just it might be political heat, yeah, but you won't be able to sue them. They have an immunity, okay? So, again, that's why you have to protect yourself. You can live in a city and you think, oh, I don't need a gun and I'm going to get robbed and I'm just going to tell them, stop, whatever, leave me alone. Okay, believe that. Many liberals have died with that thought. The state steps in not to run the business, but to set boundaries, all right? Trying to make a fair and plain system. For example, the company must file rate requests that explain costs and justifies profit. A company that, say, like a utility, electrical company, the more they build substations and power plants, the more they can charge. So the state got to say, hey, wait a minute, why do you need this? Well, it's my private company. I do what I want, but I allow you to have a monopoly. You will be governed. You will be, put in place. We have put in place these safeguards, protect the public. Public get, make some comments and that sort of thing. So it's a private company. It's not owned by the state, but it's regulated. The company must file rate requests that explain costs and justify profits. Independent commissions review these requests through hearings. Again, there's oversight. The state ensures customers pay a reasonable rate while the company earns enough to maintain infrastructure. Okay? The state ensures customers pay a reasonable rate while the company earns enough to maintain infrastructure. I said that already. This oversight preserves capitalist benefits, private ownership, efficiency, and innovation while preventing abuse of market power. They own the market. They are a monopoly, but the government has to come in, and then we have to regulate the regulators. We got to look, are they getting kickbacks? That's why you have laws. When they get caught, people need to go to jail. Our local power company was trying to sell to another power company, and it turns out supposedly someone took a kickback and they went to prison. So there is regulation, but they still make a profit. I tell you, the CEO went from a $550,000 a year to $750,000 a year when she came back. So they make a profit. All right, corporate cooperation versus socialism. Corporate cooperation versus socialism. Corporations sometimes cooperate through joint ventures, consortiums, or trade associations. When they coordinate prices or limit competition, make sure no one showed up yet. It can cross into collusion or cartel behavior, which is illegal under antitrust laws. So, do they get away with it sometimes? I'm sure they do, But that's why you have independent consumer nonprofits that make it their business. They get donations or however they, fund themselves to go after these big corporations to check these government entities and such. Oil companies forming OPEC-style pricing agreements. Examples include, if they was to oil companies get together like OPEC and say, hey, we're gonna keep the price this way, maximize our profits. That has happened in the past, and the state, like the state of Florida, will go after them. And it might be hard to prove it, but sometimes they slip up. Tech firms sharing patents or controlling markets together is another example of a cartel collusion type behavior. Railroads and banks in the early 20th century merging to dominate markets. Again, government regulates who can merge and why, and that's needed because we need competition in different areas. But again, we have a monopoly because of the location and because of the difficulty. All right, these practices are corporate alliances, not socialism. They represent private entities seeking private gain, not state ownership of or collective equality. When caught, such alliances face antitrust actions, as seen in Standard Oil Company versus United States 1911 or United States versus AT&T 1982. So there are ways, making sure this is on, there are ways of controlling their behavior. That's my point. All right. All right, why people mislabel monopolies as socialism? One, it's a lack of knowledge, a lack of research, sometimes laziness, sometimes they're lying. Okay, so people often confuse the appearance of control with ownership. When the government regulates a monopoly, it looks like intervention in the market, but regulation is a guardrail, not a takeover. Okay? In socialism, the government both owns and operates the industry. That is the difference. In a regulated monopoly, the private company still owns the asset, employs workers, and operates independently, but it must obey laws that prevent exploitation. So, again, when the Mondamis of the world say they want to open up government-run supermarkets, and then if you look through the different ones, maybe I get a video going later on, bringing out the different ones that have failed in the past and how and what we need to look for. In socialism, the government both owns and operates the industry. All right. Mislabeling comes from misunderstanding the difference between economic regulation and economic control. Regulation maintains balance within capitalism. Control replaces capitalism altogether. When the government creates a socialist mandate, like Mandami and AOC want controlling pharmaceuticals, they don't have the knowledge nor the skills to do this. They don't worry about facts. They worry about appearance. And people are going to die, all right, because of their lack of their knowledge. They're not business people, all right? They have an idea that has not been tried out. They're not seasoned. They are TikTok politicians, okay? All right, the core difference. You got the aspect monopoly socialism. All right. Ownership. To break it down, ownership of a monopoly is private, socialism, government, or a collective. Profit motive. In a monopoly, yes. In socialism, no. Distribution base. They set the goals, they set the criteria. Market role, dominant company regulated, no market competition. It's the government. You can't compete against the government. Regulation, state oversight versus socialism, state management. All right. Example, Duke Energy, Florida Power, and Light. Compared to socialism in China and USSR, State Power Bureau. All right, conclusion. This is a short one. Got a couple for a few minutes. Then I'll be going. Conclusion. A monopoly functions within capitalism under state supervision, not socialism. The purpose of regulation is to ensure fair pricing. The purpose of regulation is to ensure fair pricing, reliability, and accountability without eliminating private ownership or profit. Socialism removed private ownership entirely, okay, giving the state full control over production, pricing, and labor. A monopoly may restrict competition, but it still serves private interests within a capitalist structure. In short, a monopoly is capitalism with guardrails. Socialism is the absence of capitalism altogether. All right. I know in this modern era, we want to see new blood come forth and start to govern. Sounds good. Because a lot of the young people, you start off, you're so arrogant, you're ignorant. Okay? You have, you're 25, 30, you say, you got a little bit of schooling. Like in psychology, put it this way. Say you take your first psychology class and it's one-on-one. You're not certified, you're not trained, you haven't gone out to the field and made mistakes. You think you know everything about psychology. You took Psychology 101. It covers everything. But what you don't know, just like with a doctor, when you go into the doctor's office, you're dealing with a generalist. He's not a surgeon. He's not a brain surgeon. He's not eyes, nose, and throat. He has a general idea of what your problem may be, and he can, prescribe some certain things and see that works. He's practicing on you. Practicing. If you're a new doctor, he went through so much practice before they put him out there by himself. And that's the same thing. These young, inexperienced, somewhat educated politicians are going to practice on you. But when they practice with no safeguards, they're going to end up hurting millions, if not billions of people. All right. Yes, we need new infusion of young people in government, in different areas, but it has to be smart people, not people with all these agendas. They can't tell you simple, basic math. They believe 2 + 2 = 5 because it feels good. They believe a man can have a baby and a woman can have a penis. That is the type of culture we live in. So I'm going to close this out by saying, read more, learn more, talk less. If you feel I said something that is wrong, drop a comment. If you think I said something normally right or minimally right, drop a comment. But remember, who are you putting into office? Because you're not doing the research. You're not doing and it's so in depth. What are you doing? Like this case in point, No King's Day. Sounds good. It pulls at the heart. But what are you actually out there doing? Donald Trump is out there solving problems and you're hating, which is fine. Hate all you want. This is America. But you're hating in ignorance. Learn something. What is he actually doing? Okay? Find out what your problem is with him and with anyone else. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. But when someone as a child says, because of your abuse, I wish you were dead, they're being childish, they're being immature, and they are downright dangerous. So please like, subscribe, drop me a comment, let me know what you think, and I look forward to hearing and seeing from you in the future. Thanks.
Recording stopped.
All right, so let's get out of here. Oh, got to turn you off too.